This is Zilean, the Chrono Keeper. He's some old guy who's from the past future, likes to cosplay as Father Christmas, and does lots of drugs. But the real point here is that Zilean is the bomb bot lane. Yeah. In fact, he's so great that the background for Riot's client is a picture of him. Anyways, the reasons why Zilean support is something you should try are manifold. First, there's my favorite thing about Zilean, his range. And I don't mean just his auto attacks, though his range on those is among the top 10 in the game, and only surpassed by 380 carries, 2 of which only surpass it after gaining levels. But also the fact that all of his spells can be cast from 700 range or greater. This means that against most lanes you can poke with bombs and autos from complete safety of range. In this particular lane, this safety combined with vision control of the lane brushes meant that I could harass Jinx enough with autos and bombs that she had to leave lane before the game was even 5 minutes old. Forcing her out of lane then meant we could push up to her tower, denying her gold and XP, as the tower killed our minions, and thus solidifying an early advantage for us. And also, there's the mental factor. I'm sure plenty of you know it well. The aggravation that comes of having a ticking time bomb on your head is somehow worse than if the damage were just instant. That inevitable, unavoidable 4, 3, 2, 1. Everyone hates it, and nothing helps more to win a game like pissing off the enemy, because angry people play poorly. So far, we've only really talked about Zilean's bombs as far as his abilities go, and trust me, there's far more to this crazy bastard than just those. Zilean's second true ability is his E. It's a spell called Time Warp, which at level 1 gives you a 2.5 second long, 55% slow at 700 range, which is a very, very powerful laning tool. In this clip, Annie gets a little bit too close, so I immediately drop a bomb and my slow on her, which allows Lucian to get close enough to her for a Q and his passive proc. The long-range harass that me and Lucian can put out in this lane eventually proves fatal for Annie, who decides to stick around with a low amount of health for a little bit too long. So that about covers Zilean's early laning dominance with his long-range harass and his long-range slow to catch people out and speed buff to speed them away from oncoming ganks. However, there is more to Zilean than just the laning phase. His late game is fairly powerful, but before we get to that, how about just one more reason to play Zilean, especially in the early game? This can apply to the entire game, but another reason here. Fade away kills. There is seriously nothing more satisfying in this game than that death message. Anyways, Zilean in the late game becomes a lifesaver. Delicious, there's a hole in the middle, comes in many colors. Who gave me this script? Well, whoever it was, they got one thing right. Zilean is a lifesaver late game, and I do not mean the candy. His ult is pretty much not all he's good for. His slow is still very powerful and lasts a very long time in the late game. I believe it scales up to 4 or 5 seconds. And it is very good for picking someone out. If the enemy team is running away, you can slow the person at the back, and they won't be able to keep up with their team, and so they'll have to separate from it, and you can kill whoever that is. However, your ult is your most important, most valuable tool late game. And that is why my builds, if it ever gets to the point where I can, I always build CDR on Zilean, because he really only has 2 abilities to offer late game, the slow and the ult. And then his W, which lowers the cooldown of all of his other abilities by 10 seconds every time it's up. So if you build CDR, the W is up more often, which means you can lower the cooldown of your ult more often, and the CDR also lowers the cooldown of the ult, of the base cooldown of the ult. So you have your ult up virtually every team fight, which means that you have a free Guardian Angel for your carries every team fight, which forces the enemy team to focus you first if they're intelligent, because if they focus you first, you'll be forced to use your ult on yourself, and then it won't be on a carry. But if they focus you first, they aren't focusing the AD carry first. It creates an intractable problem for the enemy team. And I apologize if there was some background noise. There was a train going past as I was recording that particular bit. So, let's go through the checklist. Zilean has good early game pressure because of his long range on his auto attacks and his bomb, as well as a great way to pick people off and keep people in a deadly position with his E, the 55% slow that only increases in power as the game goes on. He also has a free Guardian Angel for your team, which forces the enemy team to choose between focusing you or focusing a carry, which is never a choice they want to make. They always want to focus the carry because, well, that's just common sense in League of Legends team fighting. And he also has the best dance in the entire League of Legends.
So dance, dance like it's the last night of your life. Life won't get you right.